Whatever the land was there in the village, everything was brought by Tamanna and Basavaya. There was no more land left over. Basavaya got to know about the ill health of Tamanna and he would give her toughest competition. So what did Tamanna do? He just left the village. Once he came out of the village, Basavaya was no more. He himself decorated with gold, diamonds and precious stones, and whoever the visitors they came to his house, they would say that you have everything but Tamanna's books is missing. Hello everyone, I'm Babita Tamaya, lecturer, Department of English, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, the Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. In my previous revision class, I had revised the poem When You Are Old. In my today's revision class, I'll be revising the chapter 7, The Gardener by P. Lankesh. Let's see the agenda of the day. Today I'll be discussing the synopsis, weightage of the chapter, question and answers. The synopsis. The narrator tells the reader that the story originated in his chance encounter with an old man who was standing in a coconut grove near Chennaraya Patana. The old man was a laborer, overseer and a philosopher all rolled into one. So here, an old man who had walked thousands of miles and had come and reached Chennaraya Patana. So here how the man looks like. He was a laborer, overseer and philosopher. All the three characters are rolled in this old man. The old man came to the coconut garden after walking hundreds of miles. He was well versed in agriculture that he easily understood the problems of the workers. The petty thefts in the garden came to an end and naturally the income from the garden moved dramatically. So here, once the old man came and reached Chennaraya Patana, there was a conversation between the old man and the owner of the coconut grove. The few words were exchanged. Then the owner thought that yes, he is the right person to take care of my property. After the arrival of the old man could understand the problem of the workers, and whatever the theft was happening in the coconut grove, everything was stopped completely and their income from the garden gradually increased. One day when he was in a fix like this, the old man met her. He offered her tender coconuts and he sat on the embankment of the well. So, after the arrival of the old man, the owner became lethargic. Instead of just going and seeing what's happening in his garden, he just started to spend his time with the friends and cultivated the bad habits where he was not showing any interest towards the coconut grove. He became very lazy and acquired more number of friends. But here, the wife was too very worried whether the arrival of the old man was for the good or for the worse. So one day when she goes to the coconut grove, she was in a fix. At that time, she meets the old man over there. So what the old man will do? The old man just offers a tender coconut to the owner's wife and he started to speak to her. But the owner's wife couldn't do anything. She also sat next to the embankment and listened to the old man's story. A man called Tamanna had everything. So here, the old man is narrating a story about Tamanna. He had everything. He had 10 acres of wetland, a comfortable house, and people too ready to carry out his orders or instructions. He also had a rival and his name Sangoji. He corrected himself once again saying his name was not Sangoji, it was Basavaya. So he's narrating a story about two people, that is Tamanna and Sangoji. In the beginning he says Sangoji and later he says no, it is not Sangoji, it is Basavaya. So Tamanna had everything. He had a comfortable house, he had people, he had 10 acres of wetland and there were many people to follow his instruction. But when he had everything with him, he had a enemy also. So who was the enemy? Enemy was Basavaya. If Tamanna bought 4 acres, Basavaya would follow the same and one had 10 friends, the other would acquire 15 admirers. So if Tamanna buys 10 acres of property, even Basavaya also would do the same thing. If Tamanna had 10 friends, he would acquire 15. So in the beginning, it was just like a healthy competition. Tamanna had 1,000 acres and Basavaya had 800 acres, where Basavaya could not tolerate this and sent his men asking Tamanna to sell his 200 acres of property, but where Tamanna refused. So whatever the land was there in the village, everything was brought by Tamanna and Basavaya. There was no more land left over. So at last, Tamanna had 1,000 acres, Basavaya had 800 acres, 200 more acres Tamanna had, where Basavaya could not tolerate. So he sends his people to ask Tamanna to sell his 200 acres of property, but Tamanna refused. What did Basavaya do? He forcibly sent the people, grabbed the 200 acres of property and put a fence around it. He could go to the court of law or else take recourse of police. Who's here? Tamanna, because Tamanna's 200 acres was forcibly taken by or encroached by Basavaya. So the followers, the instructors of Tamanna, what they say, you can get your property back or your land back. How? By taking the help of the police or by going to a court, or we as the supporters are ready to get your land back. Will Tamanna agree for this? Really no. There were many number of people ready to attack, but Tamanna was in search of a method that could destroy Basavaya completely. He did not want to take the help of a police, nor the court, nor his people. He wanted to destroy Basavaya completely. What was the next step he taken? Tamanna, with all his experience, composed ballads and sang them in public. So whatever the experience he had in his life, whatever he has faced, the challenges, he just composed all this experience in the form of ballads and started to sing in a public. When he started to sing, even Basavaya also tried to do that, but he couldn't become like Tamanna. But Tamanna ignored it and he was felicitated as the best poet of times. So when Tamanna started become famous by singing, what Basavaya did, he slowly started to grab whatever the property Tamanna had. But Tamanna was least bothered and he was felicitated as the best poet of that times. Basavaya felt humiliated. He got a palatial mansion and appointed few people to praise him. So when Tamanna was becoming famous, all over the world, Basavaya could not tolerate this. So what did he do? He built a big mansion and he appointed few people to praise only about Basavaya. He bedecked himself with gold, diamond and precious stones. Who? Basavaya. Because he also wanted to become famous like Tamanna. So he decorated himself with gold, diamonds and precious stones. Not only that, the visitors told that his house looked empty and dull because Tamanna's books was missing. So he appointed people to praise him. He invited the scholars, everything he did. But whoever visited his house, they would say that you have everything at your place, but one thing is missing, that is Tamanna's books. As long as Tamanna was there, Basavaya had a reason to be alive. But once Tamanna left the place, Basavaya passed away. So why did Tamanna leave the place? Basavaya got to know about the ill health of Tamanna and he would give her toughest competition. So what did Tamanna do? He just left the village. Once he came out of the village, Basavaya was no more. The old man tells the lady that Basavaya died because he had no reason to leave. Tamanna says this to the owner's wife, saying that Basavaya had no reasons to leave after I left the village. Tamanna tells the woman that the experience of his life had made him realize that the human nature is very strange. He tells her that though man works to fulfill his many needs, like wealth, education, art, and many more things. So why he's saying? Because whatever the experience he had in his life, he's just sharing with the owner's wife, because the owner is becoming rich day by day. He is filthy rich, and there will be many people like enemies. They might give a competition, or there might be a rivalry for him. Only for that purpose he says all this story. At last it says, the people, if they work, whatever the needs they have, if they fulfill also, it is not sufficient for them. Why? Because many like wealth, education, art and many more things. They want more and more. They are not satisfied with whatever the things they have in their life. Finally, he asked her to take the wild story as a dream and not to take his words seriously. So what does the old man says? Whatever the story I have told till now, think that you have seen this in your dream. I am not the one who has told. But whatever the story he has told, it was the own story of the old man. His own experience he has shared with the owner's wife. As soon as the old man finishes his story, the narrator reappears and tells the reader that he had seen all this in a dream and hence he is unable to elaborate it. So what does the author say? He reappears, he comes back and say, whatever the story the old man has said, it is that he has seen in his dreams, but he couldn't elaborate the story after that. So now let's see the 1 mark question answers of this chapter. From this chapter, the weightage will be like 1 mark and the 4 marks. So put together, it is for 5 marks. Let's see the 1 mark question answers. When, according to the narrator, does man lose his fame? After a particular age. Who was Tamanna's rival? It was Basavaya. Don't write Sangoji, it is Basavaya. Who were the 2 rivals in the story, The Gardener? It is Tamanna and Basavaya. Tamanna's disease was Basavaya's health. What came to an end after the old man's arrival at the garden? So after the arrival of the old man, the petty thefts in the garden came to an end. Why did Tamanna want to visit Lokya's house? Tamanna wanted to visit Lokya's house to see Lokya's young child who was bedridden due to fever. Where was the old man standing? The old man was standing near Chennaraya Pattana. What did the old man offer the owner's wife? He offered a tender coconut. How many acres of wet land did Tamanna had? Tamanna had 10 acres of wetland. How many acres of land both Tamanna and Basavaya had? Tamanna had 1000 acres, Basavaya had 800 acres. Which country was the sworn enemy of America? It is Russia. What was the old man well versed in? The old man was well versed in agriculture. When did Tamanna forget all his songs and ballads in The Gardener? After Basavaya's death. Who hit upon the idea of composing and singing ballads? It is Tamanna. Who appointed a number of persons to praise him? Basavaya. It's the 4 mark questions now. Bring out the changes in the lifestyle of the owner after the arrival of the old man. As I told, the old man's arrival was for the good or for the worse. Let's see here. The old man was a laborer, overseer and philosopher, all rolled in one. He came to the garden after walking hundreds of miles and reached the coconut grove near Chennaraya Pattana. He was really useful for the owner. He was well versed in agriculture and was aware of the problems of the workers. He controlled the petty thefts in the garden. The income increased. There was perceptible change in the lifestyle of the owner. The owner plantation expanded, but the owner became lethargic and shied away from hard work. His wealth and social prestige has risen higher and he acquired many friends. His life crowded with colorful events. His wife was worried whether the old man's arrival was for the good or for the worse. She was worried about his adultery and verses cultivated lately. The gardener made their farm to grow beyond their expectation and imagination. but they made their life to gradually get out of their hand. Next question. Trace the course of rivalry between Tamanna and Basavaya that moved away from the visible domain to an abstract domain. Basavaya was Tamanna's rival. If Tamanna bought land, even Basavaya also followed the suit. They acquired friends and admirers in competition. All this looked like a healthy competition, but gradually it rose to such a pitch that there was no land left in the village to buy. So whatever the land was there in the village, everything was occupied or brought by Tamanna and Basavaya. Basavaya was mad with rage as Tamanna had 1,000 acres of land, whereas Basavaya had only 800 acres. So he sent his people to ask Tamanna to sell his 200 acres of property, but Tamanna was not ready. So what did he do? He just sent his people and grabbed the 200 acres of property and put a fence around it. Tamanna's people or the followers said that you can get your land back by taking the help of the police or the court, or we ourselves will help you. But Tamanna wanted to destroy Basavaya completely. So whatever the experience he had in his life, he composed all this experience in the form of ballads and started to sing them. Now the rivalry between Tamanna and Basavaya started moving away from things that were visible towards invisible abstract domain. Tamanna became well known and earned fame. Basavaya filled his house with material wealth. He invited musicians and scholars to his house, but yet he failed miserably. Still, he found surpassing Tamanna. Tamanna was ill. Tamanna's disease was Basavaya's health. As I told, to just praise him, he appointed few people. He himself decorated with gold, diamonds and precious stones, and whoever the visitors they came to his house, they would say that you have everything, but Tamanna's books is missing. Even there also he could not become famous like Tamanna. Give an account of the strategies used by Tamanna to destroy Basavaya. Tamanna, who lived in a far-off place, had everything such as 10 acres of wetland and a comfortable house. Basavaya was his rival. In the beginning, all looked like healthy competition. Tamanna had 1,000 acres and Basavaya had 800 acres. Basavaya could not tolerate Tamanna having 200 acres of more property. He was mad with rage and acquired Tamanna's 200 acres forcibly. The quarrel led them to seek the advice of their supporters. A war had become virtually inevitable, but Tamanna was in a search of a method that could destroy Basavaya completely. He composed ballads and started to sing them. He became popular. Basavaya had no answer to this. Tamanna's fame rose everywhere. He was felicitated as the best poet. Basavaya shrunk in humiliation as of his agricultural task and material wealth was not an answer to Tamanna. He thought of another method of punishing Basavaya as he was suffering from diseases. Tamanna's disease was Basavaya's health. He decided to put an end to competition. He thought his death would destroy Basavaya. He gave up everything and started off. When Basavaya got to know about his ill health, he knew that Basavaya would give a toughest competition. So he didn't want that to happen. He knew that he is not well. He couldn't give a competition with him. So at last he himself just walked away from the village. So once he came out of the village, Basavaya was no more. He had no reason to leave after that. That's about the chapter The Gardener. In my next revision class, I'll be revising the poem To the Food from its Child. Until then, have a good day. Thank you.